Caitlin Clark on the Bird and Taurasi Show. Highlights from NCAA Final Alt broadcast. Follow UConn vs. South Carolina live updates from the Women's NCAA Championship game. Caitlin Clark was back in the Women's National Championship game. Sort of. No, the former Iowa star wasn't playing, but she was part of the broadcast for Sunday's NCAA tournament title game between Connecticut and South Carolina. The Bird and Taurasi Show, hosted by retired legends Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi, has been ESPN's alternate broadcast for the Women's Final Four and features special guests joining to talk about the game. In the biggest game of the college basketball season, it only made sense for arguably the biggest women's basketball star to join the show. While we're sure to get some great basketball insight, there's usually some hijinks with the former UConn stars. There was some silliness when the NCAA's all-time leading scorer joins in on the fun. Here are the highlights from Clark's appearance on the Bird and Taurasi Show. Caitlin Clark joins the Bird and Taurasi Show virtually. Clark wasn't in Tampa for the game as she joined the show virtually. Bird and Taurasi had their drinks alongside themselves, and Clark had her own, Gatorade, making for some good product placement, as she is sponsored by Gatorade. Diana Taurasi jokes about jab at Caitlin Clark. It didn't take long for Taurasi to reference the infamous comments she made about Clark last year. When talking with ESPN's Scott Van Pelt prior to Clark's time in the WNBA, she said, "Reality is coming for her and the rookies." The comments drew criticism as it appeared WNBA veterans weren't welcoming Clark. Flash forward to Sunday, and not long after Clark joined, Taurasi said, "Unfortunately, reality is coming to me now," drawing laughs from everyone. Clark congratulated Taurasi on her retirement, and Taurasi said she's even more busy now than when she was playing. Her advice for Clark was to play as long as possible. Caitlin Clark on Paige Buecher's. We all know she's going number one. Clark was the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, and she knows who'll get picked first this year. She praised Paige Buecher's as her college career comes to a close, and talked about what it will be like when she plays for the Dallas Wings. Dallas owns the top pick in the upcoming draft, and she's confident in who it will take. Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi joke about Caitlin Clark's muscles. Clark was asked about her thoughts and expectations for the upcoming WNBA season, and the hosts brought up the viral picture of Clark looking like she put on some muscle. Clark admitted she was in the weight room, but just laughed at the thought of her looking stronger. "AI is getting out of control," Clark said. The Indiana Fever got stronger in the offseason, hiring Stephanie White as head coach and adding players such as DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard. A more experienced roster is expected to help Indiana contend after it made the playoffs last season for the first time since 2016. Caitlin Clark, Diana Taurasi talk about what it was like to play each other. Nearly every game in Clark's rookie season in the WNBA was highly anticipated, but one game that stood out was Indiana versus Phoenix, as it featured Clark against the legend Taurasi. Even though she had the "reality is coming" comments, Taurasi praised Clark and talked about the crazy atmosphere in the arena. "It felt like the last game that was ever going to be played. There was such anticipation. The crowd was going crazy," Taurasi said. "It really was an amazing moment. I got to cross paths with Caitlin at least for a couple games, and to me, that meant a lot." Clark admitted the first time because we played at Phoenix, I was a little starstruck. Caitlin Clark brings up Geno Auriemma retirement rumors. With UConn closing in on winning its 12th national title under Auriemma, Clark brought up the question if the 71-year-old coach would retire on top of the sport. Bird and Taurasi admitted they talked about it amongst themselves earlier, but they don't see it happening. "I don't think he will," Taurasi said. "I think when he looks at winning this year and then having Sarah Strong for another 3 years, he sees an opportunity to build another dynasty." However, Clark had a much bolder prediction. She believes Auriemma will retire within the next couple of years, wanting to go out with Azzi Fudd. "I think he coaches one more after this with Azzi, and then maybe he heads out," Clark said.